Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss The Rape of the Law, one of the important poem by Alexander Pope. Who was Alexander Pope? Alexander Pope was one of the important poet of Neoclassical age. And when we see Neoclassical age, in Neoclassical age, they are following the rule of classical age. And in this poem, we also see the rule of classical age, and Alexander Pope was also one of them who followed these rules. Alexander Pope, as a poet, he was not only a poet, he was also an essayist, satirist, and he was one of the greatest poet, we can say. And when we talk about Alexander Pope, we have to remember is The Rape of the Lock is one of the important work which he written, and he also written many other works. The full title of this work is The Rape of the Lock. It was written during 1712. It was published, and it was written during that. It was published in three editions. 1712, it was published in two cantos. But when it was published in 1714, it was separated in five cantos. What is cantos? Cantos is just type of section. We can separate poetry in that section. So it is first in two cantos, then after five cantos, and the third edition in 1717, where we see Clarissa, a speech was added in the poem. Who was Clarissa? Clarissa was one of the character in the poem. And when we talk about Clarissa, Clarissa was a wise girl, we can say. And genre of this poem is mock heroic epic poem. Why we call it a mock epic poem? Because when we see epic poem have a supernatural character, superhuman character. There is a battle, grand battle, and there great deed happen. But in mock heroic, what we see is something like just mocking at the epic way. Like in epic poem, we see the grander thing, but in mock epic poem, we see they are fighting over a trifle thing. They are just the poem is written in the grander manner, but they are just writing about some a small matter. And in this poem, The Rape of the Lock, Alexander Pope doing the same. He was just writing about stolen of a lock, hair lock, and that's why he wrote this poetry. And he just satire on the society. At that time, there is a character named Lord Petre and Arabella Fermor, and they are just fighting over a hair lock. They are the greatest family of the 18th century, and they are just fighting over the trifle thing, and that's why he just used that reference in his poetry, and that's why it is called Romane Clef. Romane Clef means representing something which is of real life human. In a poetry, if you represent real life human, that is called Romane Clef. And if you are reading a poem and you get to know that somewhere I know this person, so that is what is Romane Clef is. And narrative poem, it is also the telling the story of stolen of a law. That's why it is also called narrative poem. The poem antagonist is Baron, who stole the law, and the point of view is third person point of view, and we can say omniscient narrator. In omniscient narrator, the narrator knows everything about the character, the past, future, and the thoughts of the character. And it is dedicated to John Carroll, who was one of the greatest friend, or we can say close friend of Alexander Pope, and he was also a friend of Lord Petre and the character Arabella Fermor. Not the character, they are the real life human. Baron representing Baron character in the Rape of the Lock, he representing Lord Petre, and Belinda, one of the main protagonists of this poem, she was representing Arabella Fermor, and they just fight over a trifle thing. They belongs to a royal family, but they fight over a trifle thing. And Alexander Pope was just telling from the this poem that how they are just fighting over a trifle thing. And it was John Carroll who requests to Alexander Pope to write this poetry, because John Carroll was also familiar with Lord Petre and Arabella Fermor, and also familiar with Alexander Pope's satire and everything, and he was close friend with them. That's why he dedicated that work to the John Carroll. So when we say this poem is a mock epic poem, and like in epic poem, there is a invoking of the muse happen in the starting of the poetry. Same thing happened in the Rape of the Lock. Alexander Pope invoked the muse to write the poetry. Invoke the muse means like praying to God to help in writing the poetry, and that's what happened in that also. So now we go to the character SMAF. Who are the character? Like first character who was Belinda was important character, and she is the protagonist of the poem. We can say she's a vain young lady, has lovely locks in her hair, and that locks get stolen. And Baron was the conniving thief, and who was the Baron just thief that stole just lock. And we can say Ariel was the protector of Belinda, and Umbriel was a mischievous gnome. Mischievous gnome, what does it mean? It means that Umbriel was a evil spirit. Ariel was a good spirit. It is a type of self. Like I said, now in epic poem, we can see that there is a character who's superhuman, like supernatural character, like a spirit. And Ariel is a good spirit who protect Belinda, and Umbriel is an evil spirit who torture Belinda. We can say who just like more suffered Belinda. And Queen of a Spleen is the ruler of women tempers. We can say women mood changes because of spleen, and that is Queen of a Spleen who changes Belinda mood in the poem. We can see that. And Thalestris is also one of the important in the poem character who helps Belinda in getting that law. And Thalestris, she is the warrior queen, and Sir Pulmi was the